Nat and Tony, I'm going to go at you guys with this one. Riddle me this. How is it that 1 week ago, President Putin said, hey, you know what? I'm ready for peace talks. You know, this war thing, not feeling it. Let's just figure something out, okay? Then a few days later, President Biden, for the first time ever during this war, says to Ukraine, hey, you know what? You could go ahead and use U.S. rockets and shoot Russia with them, which is something that's unprecedented in this war, which is a whole new escalation. And then NATO, a day or two ago, said that they're expecting to have 300,000 U.S. troops on the front lines of Europe's border within the coming months. And then we have Macron, who is escalating the shit out of this thing, writing checks with his mouth that I believe, as they say, his ass can't cash. You know, France's ass being their military-industrial complex. So what do you guys make of that? Is that something rational to you, or does it sound like something's awry?
Well, I mean, it makes sense, and I'll explain why. To me, it makes sense because we're gearing up towards election season. So he'd want to be in the midst of a war because typically a president's approval rating goes up when we're in the middle of a war, assuming that it's going well. So I'm thinking they're going to start some type of controversy to get away from all the issues that are going on in America. Our economy sucks right now. We're having unprecedented migration coming in. So they need something to distract the people, and a strong war might boost the economy because they're going to produce more weapons and get people's eyes off of things and get them more supportive of the president. That's my guess.
That's a reasonable answer. I mean, I personally think that war narrative gets a little bit overblown because, I mean, people refer back to Bush after 9/11. His popularity went through the roof, but that was back when we didn't see the Matrix as clearly because we didn't really have the internet and all the, independent journalism that we do now. So we were all rah, yeah, let's go and fuck shit up in the Middle East. But and then you go back to FDR with World War II. People were happy about him doing his thing there. But today, I don't think people are excited about this war. I think people are like, no, this is stupid. We shouldn't have anything to do with it. And, the fact that there's articles everywhere saying that Putin is ready to have peace talks, but then the next move that we make is to escalate the thing. Nat, does that make sense to you just as a logical person?
No, it's a little, I think with everything going on, everybody kind of wants a piece of the action. Everybody's looking, how can I contribute to the arise of the eyes of, what's going on today. So it's a little confusing to have the different collaborations and having, the U.S. take part in certain things that, I think the U.S. kind of needs to focus on what we got to focus on for ourselves. So it's a little worrisome. I hopefully it doesn't get to this, part in a war where now we're going into war for.
Does it seem like they're trying to force it though? Like just with those facts?
I don't know if they're trying to force it. I think when certain maybe decisions are made, then we can really say that. But again, this is also eyes. This is also part of the rise in the talks, and why you get put into history books is because you get to be in the mix of conversation. So I don't want to say it's forced. I think if certain things happen, then we can say maybe it could go that route.
Well, think about it this way, Brandon.
Conspiracy guys, hit me.
Yeah. Think about it this way. Here, like I agree with the assessments Tony and Natalia were just giving us, but this is really not even about Biden's trying to drum up votes by getting us into a war because wartime presidents are more popular. Like you said, things have changed. People are now more aware of what's going on, and that doesn't really play out the way it did even 20 years ago. But what it can do is really strengthen him with his base, which is fragmenting in the last couple years. You look at, the radical Democrats that pushed Biden into office are now huge anti-Israel, pro-Palestine. Mm-hmm. And Biden has lost all those people by refusing to do anything about Israel. Those people will not vote for him. They are protesting him. They're calling for other people. They're suddenly on board with the fact that he's too old to be effective. They want new people in power, and he's losing his base. Well, remember what got Biden, or part of what got Biden elected, what moved and motivated the Democrats for the last almost 8 years. Putin and Russia are the biggest threat on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. There's no bigger threat to democracy than Vladimir Putin. So if Biden can be the American president that finally did something about Russia and actually got involved in that conflict, that's a big stamp for him with the Democratic base. Not to mention the fact that they all make money through Ukraine anyway, so they have their own personal interest as well.
But it's so stupid and illogical, though, that makes me think of that thing that you brought up before one time, how there's a theory that the far-right Republicans are trying to fulfill what, like the Lindsey Graham types are trying to, fulfill, a nuclear war situation to, end life on Earth or something with something to do with religion. Did you say that to me sometime?
That might have been when we were talking about the red heifer thing
Right,
with,
yeah,
with
yeah.
Israel. Everybody's invested in this ancient spiritual war that they will not admit to. You know, that there's Israel and the church and Islam and the Arab nations all bought in on it. But they're not quite trying to move us towards nuclear war.
But how is it not moving towards nuclear war,
No,
though?
this definitely is.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's so illogical that it makes me think of, like, are they trying to kill 90% of the Earth? Like, I mean, yes, the globalists are. So is this the way they're trying to do it? Because, I mean, I was saying to Humberto the other night, like, what's the, like, if you did want to kill 90% of the population, what's the point of still being on the Earth as the remaining 10% if it's all nuked up?
Yeah. Are you trying to cause nuclear holocaust?
I mean,
because this is how you get nuclear holocaust.
They're trying to.
I mean,
advantage. Maybe that's why they were repopulating the way that they
so Brandon,
do.
yeah.
how bad do you think things can get? You think this will escalate? This will.
Yeah, I don't think that Putin's going to use a nuke. I think Ukraine is decimated and much more decimated than we can even comprehend because, you know, why did they create a burial site that couldn't fit 2 million people in it in the past 2 years? You know, they're reporting that only 500,000 have been killed in that, but I think it's much worse. The fact that they're pulling women and old men and disabled people onto the battlefield, like, what does that historically say about a population when they're in war? You know, like, if you're pulling your least fit for duty people of your population into battle, it means your entire male fighting population has been decimated. So I think they're ready to break any day now. And if, you know, Russia ends up on Poland's doorstep, which they could soon, you know, I think that's what France is getting ready for. That's what NATO is getting ready for.
Maybe they want to kill off the weak.
Yeah, I heard they moved like what was it, 90,000 troops within Europe.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ukraine threw 2 generations of its people into a wood chipper to accomplish absolutely nothing. They have had no significant territorial gains. The peace deal, Brandon, that you mentioned that Putin floated about a week ago was, hey, let's just leave the battle lines where they are.
Yeah, which they should.
There was no chance in hell Ukraine was ever getting their land back.
No.
The second Russia was in there and they took all that land, the lines have really not moved since then. They've fluctuated a little bit, but it's basically for almost, a little over 2 years now, give or take.
Yeah.
Russia and Ukraine have been bombing the same blocks of concrete apartment buildings over and over again.
Yeah.
Without anyone actually going anywhere.
Right.
Tony, what do you think is that after this? What was the result of this? What do you expect? Do you think this is going to be a 10-year thing, a 20-year thing? Do you think we're going to?
I honestly don't know because
Holocaust?
it depends on does Trump become president, does Biden stay president. So I feel like it's going to be 2 vastly different paths depending on how our election goes. So if it's Biden, I think this is going to get drawn out for another at least 2 or 3 years. They're going to make as much money off of it as they possibly can. Whoever's wheels can get greased will. If Trump comes into office, I think it's going to come to an abrupt end, which I hope it does.
Like on Inauguration Day, it'll end if Trump gets in.
Well, he did promise that. He said that he was going to make them have peace. I like that guy because I'm against senseless killing. I'm against people, making profits out of war.
For environmentalists, they're really just fine with launching bombs for like 24/7 for years.
They actually just published a study that the most environmentally unfriendly thing you can do is having in a war. The amount of oil that is burned just to move troops, just to move tanks, that is generated by war is incredible.
And the explosions, they're talking about fucking cows with the greenhouse gas emissions or the carbon emissions. What about the bombs that are going off every day?
This is what pisses
And they're
me
talking about
off.
cow farts.
If they really, if they were really for the environment and they want to be really honest, you know who they will have to call out China. They're the ones that put out the most pollution out there.
China, India.
India, they put out the most pollution and nobody's saying anything about it.
Nope.
They celebrate when they make green cars, when they make environment packs. But when it comes to brass tacks, they're not doing anything about it.
Yeah. No,
So
virtue signaling.
You can have a whole army of people like Rob driving a Tesla. It's not going to do jack when you have
hear
the
that,
bulk
Rob?
of Asia pumping all their trash directly into the ocean. Because most Asian countries, China does it with pollution. India just uses its rivers as a garbage disposal. If they have trash, they dump it into the river and then it floats out to the ocean.
Have you seen the rivers in India?
Yeah.
Have you seen the plastic river in India, by the way?
The
Yeah,
plastic river?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just a huge pile of trash.
Or like think about
that's accumulated that they call the plastic river now.
Think about the river Ganges, which is like sacred in Hindu culture. They bathe in it. They drink from it. That's also where they pump all their sewage and garbage. So that explains a lot about what's going on in India right now. Might account for some of the smell, potentially.
Yeah, isn't it true that like the second you land there, it smells the entire time?
Yeah.
Like you just can't escape the stench of it.
You'd have to ask someone who's actually been to India. I can't say about that. But if the rivers are just solid trash across the top, trash and sewage all the way down, that might account.
How about
for
you,
it.
Nat? What are you doing for the environment?
What am I doing for the environment? I don't know what I'm doing for the environment.
Great answer. That's what we like to hear here.
I mean, I'm drinking my water. I'm not using that much electricity. I'm not really
You're a
like
Stanley
a
Cup girly. I've seen
Yeah,
you.
I drink my water. I try not to I throw all my trash away. I'm
Right.
very
In the
like
right trash
in
cans?
the right trash cans. And I look. Sometimes they have the fake little top that is just one trash can. But I recycle when I can, and
This is what happens.
I clean.
It's a scam.
Like nice, well-adjusted, decent people like Nat. They do everything in their power to be right. They have 3 trash cans for recycling, for general trash. She's carrying around her
Stanley
his
cup.
Stanley cup
Yeah.
to use reusable cups, and then you throw 100,000 missiles. You know,
Yeah. And the recycling thing's a lie too. Like what is it, Kelly? Like 90% of the stuff doesn't even get recycled. Yeah, so that's just a
believe
crock
it.
of shit too.
it just goes back into the land.
yeah, 'cause,
us-
like if there's like a speck of dirt inside the thing you recycle, it's non-usable.
They've had us sorting and washing our garbage since like the early 90s.
Yeah.
And telling us, oh, you guys are definitely helping. I buy that.
I actually talked to a girl who she's going to school to help with the environment. And she was telling me how it's just, there's never been like an actual system that they've built that works. They tried different things to help contribute, but it doesn't flow together. That's why we've had this problem for so many years, is because it's so far backed up of trash. They don't even know where to start with it. So it's more than, it's the little things that really do matter. Like when I have water in my car, I'll literally open the water because it's hot and it melts in the water.
It's very hot.
And I pour it in the grass. So at least the water gets grass. So there's contribution there too. I try and think of things to give back without going out my way too.
People.
Your grass is treated better than people in some third world countries.
I know.
Exactly. I know. That's why I feel bad doing it, but I'm like, at least it's gonna go to something.
And they're the ones who are going to look at you and say, yeah, but you weren't using a paper straw.
I know.
So you're a piece of garbage.
I know.
So anti-paper straw.
Yeah.
too.
I mean,
Stupid as
we,
that.
we all do the little things we can. Like, okay, cut up the plastic rings on soda cans, and
Yes.
they forced us to drink out of paper straws.
Which
as much
makes
as
no
we hated that.
Yeah.
It's like, we have reusable water bottles for the most part. I am assuming most of us have some kind of reusable grocery bag or something. But
Yeah.
like Humberto was saying, if you don't regulate China and stop people from bombing each other,
Yeah.
who cares about the environment at that point?
I know. And decent people like Nat,
I try.
they try their hardest, but it's not hard.
Stop the
enough.
war in Ukraine if
We'll
for
never
no
win.
other reason than just because it inconveniences Natalia.
Well,
Yeah.
closing thought: there's no institution in the world that's more incompetent and disorganized and a nuisance to the people than the government. So, less government involved in every aspect of life, the smoother things would run.
And to leave this on a cliffhanger of a situation we're closely monitoring, we have a report at VT.com right now that Russia is moving warships for a military exercise off the coast of Cuba. They'll be here next week.
Yes.
What?
Nice.
And if there's any students of history in the audience today, do you remember another time where Russian ships and armaments were moved to Cuba?
1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis.
There you go. Humberto's not even from this country, and he's aware of it. That shows how significant this
Go
is.
Humberto.
And one more closing thought: I swear to God, if the truth about they say that Russia has hypersonic missiles and we don't, if that's true, that is the most infuriating thing I've ever heard in my life. The fact that we spend $900 billion a year, they spend $60 billion a year. How the hell do they have something that we don't have? Which I hope that we're just keeping it a secret, but supposedly they have those on those submarines that are somewhat off the coast of the U.S.
So if something's going to kick off and
Well,
Ukraine wants to use our missiles
Why
in
we're
Russia,
funding gender studies in Pakistan,
Yep.
guys.
Right.
Right?